folks. Today I want to talk about the importance of getting information from credible resources because our brain isn't that accurate. It's not as accurate as we think it is. And I want to share this with you because I'm having more and more conversations with leaders, with CEOs, executives, the normal, average, everyday person. And when I hear certain things, I tend to ask the question, where did you get this information from? In many cases, so I had this one conversation with this CEO, and the information that he was sharing was completely off base, like completely off to way off from outer space somewhere. And I asked the question, where did you get this information from? And he said, I don't know. I just heard this somewhere. And that's really interesting because this is what we are seeing in society today. And this is critical for us because we operate as human beings, we operate on two fundamental things. We operate on energy and we operate on information. That is what the brain operates on. That is what the body operates on. And so if we don't have effective energy, and I talk extensively about energy because that's very important, it impacts us in a negative way. And if we don't have accurate information, there's a number of other variables that are involved in information. But at the bare minimum, if we don't have accurate information, then we can't function appropriately or accurately in our life because information is required for the four fundamental and basic elements of life, which is basically making decisions. That's the first one. The second is taking action. The third one is experiencing life. And the fourth one is learning. And information is required in every one of these four steps. And the better and more accurate information you have, the better decision making you can take or make, the better actions you can take, the better you actually experience life, and the better you learn and grow and evolve. So the interesting thing about the brain is this. After a while, the brain sometimes can't, and in many cases can't decipher where it got the information from, whether it was a credible resource or it was let's just say a non-credible resource. And so I'll give you an example. Studies have been done on individuals or groups where they've shared information from just non-credible sources, and the information was just completely way off. And the individuals, after a certain period of time, reiterated that information, but they couldn't recall where they got that information from. And even though they were told that this information was from a source that wasn't credible, after a while, their brain forgot about that. And this is so fascinating in terms of how our brains operate. People think that our brains are extremely accurate. They're not. There's a lot of stuff that happens in the brain, and it's an organic and electrical and chemical process that actually happens within the brain. And so there's a lot that can actually go wrong. So the brain is imperfect. It's not perfect by any means. And so we have to understand that the sources that we get our information from absolutely impact our decisions, our actions, our experiences in life, and how we learn and grow. And if that information, if that source is not credible, we're in trouble. And this is so fascinating because this is exactly the challenge that's happening in the United States right now and in other countries, and even in Canada to a certain degree. And I think the American political system is one of the most fascinating case studies in modern history because people are believing stuff that has no factual basis or evidence whatsoever. And one of the reasons is because we may look at some of the individuals and say, are these people just crazy? No, they are just getting the information. And after a while, well, let's just say many of these people believe the information right off the bat, but some people are taking in that information, knowing that it's not coming from a credible source, and they forget about it. And the brain continues to process it, and it influences how they behave, how they make decisions months or even years later, and they've forgotten where they've even gotten the information from. And this goes to what I'm trying to talk about, and hopefully I just didn't confuse you. But essentially, you have to be careful where you get your information from and never take information. Well, I should never say never, but be very careful about taking information from a non-credible source because that is going to absolutely, based on science and psychological research, influence how you make decisions going forward. So I have a rule of thumb. I don't watch garbage news. I don't watch clips of news because clips are just, they take one context without giving the complete context. And so it's very easy to get influenced by that. And I know that if I get information from crappy sources, it's going to impact my thinking. And so I take my information very seriously. I take it from credible sources like books, like research-based books, like textbooks, even stuff on AI or using ChatGPT or any AI models. I'm very hesitant about that because they are pulling information in from the net. And much of the information from the net is not credible. And so here's my recommendation. When you're getting information, get it straight from the source, get the entire context, get it from credible resources, people that are experts, have done the research in those particular areas, and can actually cite certain things, and they can actually share with you in writing with evidence the actual thing that they're talking about. Because there's a lot of so-called experts out there, and I highly encourage everybody to double check. So that's the main premise I want to share here with you today. Regardless of you consciously knowing or not knowing where you're getting information from, if you're getting information from crappy resources that are not credible and the information is not accurate and not relevant, your brain still processes it and after a while forgets where you got the information from, and it becomes part of your thinking. So be very careful and filter the information that you put into your brain in the first place. Hope this helps. Take care.